What's good, everyone? This is Monaro and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to cover chapters 41 to 46. I hope you enjoy. Five new recruits are being marched up the King's Road, so Sir Alistair is passing 8 boys on to the Lord Commander. Todder, Hulda, Grenn, Tyrion, Albert, Pypar, Maethar, and Jon. He then tells the boys that some will now call them men, but they are fools to believe it, and when winter comes, they will die like flies. Then Sir Alistair leaves. The recruits gather around and offer congratulations to those promoted. As the boys pass a celebratory wineskin around, Jon notices Sam standing by himself and goes over to him. Sam proclaims that Jon will be first ranger someday, like his uncle was. Jon corrects this to is. Hulda interrupts to ask if Jon is going to drink the wine he is carrying. Then Pip grabs the wineskin and squirts it into Jon's face. Soon the ecstatic boys start a snowball fight, and by the time Jon can break free, Sam has disappeared. The promoted boys are treated to a marvelous feast that night to celebrate. The group discusses and jokes about their assignments: ranger, builder, woodsman, steward. They are all convinced that Jon, as the best swordsman and rider, will be a ranger, like his uncle was the first ranger. Jon corrects this to is once again before pushing his food away and leaving. Pip follows and asks what is wrong. Jon explains that it is because Sam is not with them. Without them to protect him, Sam will be at the mercy of Sir Alistair. Pip assures Jon that they did all they could for Sam, but that it is not good enough for Jon. Jon goes for a long ride by himself. As he rides, he thinks about the world outside the Night's Watch and reminds himself that he has not yet sworn his vow. He thinks of all the places he has wanted to travel and will never visit. He longs to go back to Winterfell to be with his half-brothers, but then remembers that Lady Catelyn will not welcome him. Jon decides that there is no place for him in Winterfell or King's Landing, and remembers that not even his mother had a place for him. Whoever she was, his mother must be something dishonorable, otherwise why would Lord Eddard be too ashamed to speak of her? On the ride back, Jon thinks about what he should do about Sam. Jon visits Maester Aemon despite the late hour. Aemon's stewards, Chet and Clytus, considered the ugliest men in the watch, meet him at the door. Chet insists that the Maester is asleep and orders Jon to come back in the morning. Jon puts his foot in the door to prevent it closing and refuses to leave since tomorrow will be too late. Chet goes to get the Maester while Jon goes to the library and starts a fire as instructed. When Maester Aemon arrives, he sits by the fire and assures Jon that a midnight visitor is a welcome diversion from the sleeplessness of old age. Jon asks that Sam be accepted as a sworn brother along with the others. Chet complains that it is no concern of the Maester, and Maester Aemon agrees that training is the responsibility of Sir Alistair. Jon continues on to explain about all he and the others have done to protect Sam. Chet remains adamant that Sir Alistair will make a man of Sam or kill him trying. Jon replies that the Watch has need of every man, and thus to kill one in futile training would be stupid. Recalling Maester Luwin's words about why a Maester's chain is made of many kinds of metal, Jon declares that the Watch, like a kingdom, needs all sorts of skills and knowledge. Then Jon asks why Sam could not be a steward. As a steward, Chet objects that it is not easy work fit for cowards. They keep the Watch alive by hunting, farming, gather firewood, make clothing, and bring up supplies. Maester Aemon calmly names a number of steward duties, and Jon has to admit that none of them suit Sam. Then Jon declares that there is one thing Sam can do better than anyone else: help Maester Aemon, since he can do sums, read, write, and is good with animals like the ravens. The Maester considers this for a while and then tells Jon that he will think on it. Tyrion and Bronn have taken shelter beneath some aspens just off the high road. Tyrion is gathering wood and asks Bronn if a particular branch will do for a fire. Bronn asks if he has a death wish, as a fire will bring the Vale Mountain clans down on them. Bronn thinks it is best to travel fast at night, avoid the road, and make no noise or fires. Tyrion states that traveling fast at night is a good way to fall down the mountain, and that the clans will find them no matter what they do. Bronn replies that that means they are dead men. Tyrion insists that he would prefer to die comfortable and asks if Bronn can find some game. He does not look forward to the salt beef and hard bread that Lysa Arryn has provided them. Bronn threatens to take Tyrion's horse and leave, asking what Tyrion would do. Tyrion replies that he would probably die. When Bronn asks if Tyrion believes his threat, Tyrion admits he does, commenting that Bronn was quick to finish off Shigen when he took an arrow in the belly. Bronn points out that Shigen was as good as dead anyway and would have done the same for him. Bronn explains that although he fought for Tyrion, he is not his friend and not his servant. Tyrion accepts this with good humor, stating that he is mainly interested in Bronn's sword, not his friendship. When Bronn asks how Tyrion knew he would be his champion, Tyrion explains that he did not know, but anticipated Bronn's sellsword nature. Go for the gold. Bronn helped take Tyrion captive in hopes of a reward, but the Starks are too proud to take low-born scum like Bronn into their service permanently, so Tyrion had gambled that Bronn would abandon Lady Catelyn for the next hopeful venture, rescuing him. Bronn tells Tyrion that he has a bold tongue and that someday somebody will cut it out and make him eat it. Tyrion replies that everyone tells him that. Tyrion then declares that although Bronn is scum, he is not stupid and knows where his best interests lie, luckily for Tyrion. When Bronn quickly lights the fire with flint, Tyrion compliments that Bronn is also useful and almost as good with a sword as his brother Jaime. Then Tyrion asks what Bronn wants: gold, land, a woman. He promises that if Bronn keeps him alive, he will have it. Bronn asks about what happens if Tyrion dies. Tyrion quips that then he will have one sincere mourner. Bronn then informs Tyrion that he is no man's toady. Tyrion replies that he is sure Bronn is no man's friend, adding that he is sure Bronn will betray him, just like Lady Stark if there is a prophet. However, Tyrion begs Bronn to remember that he will match any price offered to betray him because he likes living. Bronn disappears to go hunting at Tyrion's request. An hour later, they are eating a goat they have roasted. Tyrion complains about the meat's toughness, but says he will not complain too loudly since at the Eyrie he would have had to dance on a precipice for a boiled bean. Bronn then complains that Tyrion gave the turnkey a purse of gold, and Tyrion states that a Lannister always pays his debts. He kept his silver, however, after giving the turnkey the purse. Tyrion told him that if he ever tired of Lady Arryn's service, he need only come to Casterly Rock to get the rest. Bronn asks what Tyrion plans when they reach the river, and Tyrion states a whore, a featherbed, and wine for a start, and then on to Casterly Rock or King's Landing, since he has questions about a dagger. Bronn seems surprised that Tyrion is truly innocent. As they settle down for the night, Tyrion notes that the clansmen are taking their time. Bronn replies that he would fear a trap with them being so open. Tyrion suggests they sing to scare them away. As Tyrion whistles a song, he asks Bronn if he has ever heard it before. Bronn states that he has heard it in inns and whorehouses. Tyrion goes on to say the first girl he bedded used to sing it. He tells Bronn the story of when he and his brother Jaime rescued her. They heard a scream, and Tisha came running onto the road chased by two men. Jaime went after the men while Tyrion dismounted to protect the girl. He tells Bronn that she was about a year older than him, low-born, half-starved, and unwashed. When Jaime left to get help from Casterly Rock, Tyrion took her to an inn where they shared a meal and talked. The wine went to 13-year-old Tyrion's head, and he found himself in bed with her. When he broke her maidenhead, she wept and then kissed him. He found a drunken septon to marry them and set her up in a cottage of her own where they played man and wife for a fortnight. Then the septon sobered and told Tyrion's father, and that was the end of his marriage. Jaime was forced to confess that the girl was a whore and that he set the whole thing up. Then Lord Tywin gave her to a barracks of guardsmen and paid her a silver for each one. Tywin made Tyrion go last, having him pay her a gold coin since he was a Lannister. Bronn states that he would have killed the man who did that to him, and Tyrion states that he might yet. A Lannister always pays his debts. Tyrion rolls into his shadow-skin cloak to sleep and dreams of a sky cell, but this time he is the jailer, driving his father back to the abyss. Bronn wakes him with a warning, and Tyrion motions for Bronn to stay still. Then Tyrion calls out for the clansmen to join them and share their goat. A voice replies, since this is their mountain, it is their goat. Tyrion agrees that it is and asks their names. They declare themselves Stone Crows, and a big man called Shaga, armed with 2 axes, steps into the light first. Slowly the rest emerge, armed with a variety of weapons, including pitchforks. Tyrion introduces himself and declares himself a member of Clan Lannister. He offers to pay the clansmen for the goat they ate. Gunthor, son of Grenn, who seems to be their chief, asks what he has to give them, and Tyrion tells them he has silver in his purse and his weapons and armor. Khan replies that Tyrion is going to pay them with their own coin. They can take what they want from their corpses. Gunthor states they have nothing to give but their lives and asks Tyrion how he would like to die. Tyrion replies, in my own bed, with a belly full of wine and a maiden's mouth around my cock, at the age of 80. Shaga laughs, but the others seem unamused. Gunthor tells Khan to kill Bronn and take Tyrion to milk goats and make the mothers laugh. Bronn springs to his feet, asking who dies first, but Tyrion screams for him to stop. Tyrion asks the clansmen if their weapons are the best they could steal, declaring them good for killing sheep at most. He adds that his father smiths shipped better weapons. Gunthor, thinking of the starving women and children of his tribe, is interested and asks what Tyrion will give them for their lives. In addition to the list of weapons suggested by the tribesmen, Tyrion offers them the Veil of Aaron. Eddard Stark is in the throne room where Robert the First Baratheon's hunting tapestries have replaced the skulls of the Targaryen dragons. He is extremely uncomfortable after hours on the Iron Throne. The throne's spikes and jagged metal make it impossible to lean back, and his shattered leg is throbbing more sharply each minute. Aegon the Conqueror, who commanded his armorers to create the throne out of the swords laid down by his enemies, had said a king should never sit easy. At this point, Ned is damning both Robert and Aegon. His only consolation is that at least he can sit, as can the 3 consulars in attendance, Varys, Peter Baelish, and Grand Maester Pycelle. The rest, including the petitioners, lords, and guards, must stand. The kingdom has been in a tinder box since Catelyn Stark seized Tyrion Lannister, and Ned has the task of figuring out how best to stanch the hemorrhaging. Sir Carl Vance explains that the small folk kneeling before him are all that remains of the holdfast of Sharer, while those of Wendish Town and the Mummers Ford are all dead. The villagers tell of the brutality, murder, rape, and destruction. The raiders were interested not in stealing, but in destruction, making them Lannister invaders. Sir Raymond Derry continues by explaining that the people of Wendish Town took refuge in their wooden holdfast, but the perpetrators burned the holdfast and shot anyone who tried to run out. The Sharer holdfast was made of stone, so this tactic did not work. Ned asks for proof that the raiders were from House Lannister, and is told that there were 50 or 100 men, all mounted on war horses and armored in mail with good weapons. Their armor was plain, and they flew no banners, but the leader was as big as an ox, Gregor Clegane, the mountain that rides. Pycelle points out that there are many large men in the kingdom, but the petitioning knights insist there is no one as large as the mountain. Pycelle asks why the mountain, who holds lands and is an anointed knight, would turn brigand. Sir Mark Pypar calls the mountain a false knight and Lord Tywin Lannister's mad dog. Pycelle asks Ned to remind the knight that Lord Tywin is the father of their gracious queen, Cersei Lannister. Ned sarcastically declares that the court might have forgotten if Pycelle had not reminded them. It is then that Ned looks up to see men going out the door and also spots Septa Mordane with Sansa Stark. He has a flash of anger since this is no place for a girl, but calms himself that the Septa had no way of knowing that this was no ordinary day. Littlefinger asked where the knights responsible for protecting their holdfast were when this destruction was going on. The petitioning knights replied that they had answered the call of their liege lord to marshal at Riverrun and below the Golden Tooth in anticipation of a Lannister invasion. They also declared that now that Sir Edmure Tully has dispersed men to guard all the border holdfasts along the Red Fork, Ned thinks to himself that this may be exactly what Lord Tywin wants, to bleed off the strength of Riverrun as Edmure scatters his swords to defend every holdfast. Littlefinger asks what the knights are looking for from the throne if they have already protected their lands. They reply that as they still keep the king's peace, they seek permission to retaliate. Ned is thankful that they have asked. Tywin Lannister obviously hoped to provoke a Tully invasion so that he might claim to be the aggrieved party. Pycelle insists that it is Lord Tywin's responsibility to dispense justice to his bannerman, Sir Gregor, but Ned reminds everyone that all justice flows from the king. Pycelle immediately suggests that in that case they should wait for Robert to return, but Ned insists his right as hand to speak for the king. He spies Sir Robar Royce, whose father is hunting with Robert, and tells him to ride to the king and advise him of the situation. Ned refuses the petitioning knights permission for vengeance and tells the villagers he cannot give them back what they have lost, but he can give them justice. He continues by telling the villagers that the first men believe that the man who passes judgment should wield the sword, but his injury means he must send another to do his killing. Sir Loras Tyrell asks for the honor of slaying Sir Gregor, but Ned denies him, reiterating that the goal is justice, not vengeance. Ned looks at the assembled lords and orders Lord Beric Dondarrion, Thoros of Myr, Sir Gladden Wild, and Lord Lothar Mallory to each assemble 20 men. Ned also sends 20 House Stark guards of Winterfell. Lord Beric is given command as befits his rank. Then Ned announces in the name of Robert that these men are charged with bringing to justice the false knight Gregor Clegane, and that Gregor is stripped of all lands and titles and sentenced to death. Then he tells them to ride at first light so it can be done quickly, and that the throne will hear no more petitions. At the base of the throne, Varys is still gathering papers when everyone else has left. He declares Ned a bolder man than himself. He goes on to suggest that Ned should have sent Loras, as a man who is an enemy of the Lannisters would do well to make the Tyrells his friends. Varys also reminds Ned that it was a slight not to send Sir Ilyn Payne, since he is the king's justice. Ned does not like the man, but tells Varys that he would prefer not to send a Lannister man to kill a Lannister bannerman. Varys informs Ned that he saw Ilyn in the back, and he did not look pleased, likely because he so loves his work. Sansa is bewildered that her father did not send the Knight of Flowers after Sir Gregor Clegane. She tells her friend Jane Poole that she thinks it is because her father was in a foul mood from his leg wound. Sansa believes sending Sir Loras, who looks like a hero, to slay the monstrous Sir Gregor would have been just like the tales. Sansa tells Jane that she said as much to Septa Mordane, but that the Septa only told her not to question her father's decisions. Littlefinger, who had overheard, claimed that her father's decision could do with a bit of questioning. When Sansa had explained to him about monsters and heroes, Littlefinger told her life was not a song. Jane suggests that Lord Eddard should have sent Sir Ilyn Payne, but Sansa replies that he is like a second monster. Then Jane begins to speak dreamily about Lord Beric Dondarrion, telling Sansa how brave and gallant he is. Sansa can only think that even though Lord Beric is handsome, he is also old, almost 22. Changing the subject, Sansa tells Jane that she has had a dream about Prince Joffrey taking the White Hart the king's party is hunting in the Kingswood. It was actually only a wish, but Sansa thinks it sounds better to call it a dream. In her heart, Sansa thinks that her prince is far worthier than his drunken father. Jane asks if Joffrey just touched the heart in the dream, since that is what heroes always do in the stories, but Sansa insists that Joffrey shot it with a golden arrow and brought it back to her because she knows Joffrey likes hunting and killing. Sansa does not think Joffrey had anything to do with killing her father's men. That was all his uncle Jaime Lannister's doing. She knows her father is still angry about it, but believes that blaming Joffrey would be like blaming her for something Arya did. The mention of Arya leads Jane to ask of how she saw Arya walking on her hands. Both agree that they cannot understand why Arya does anything. Next, Sansa tells Jane about Yoren coming before the throne to ask for more men to man the wall. After seeing the dirty, smelly Night's Watch recruiter, nothing like her uncle Benjen, Sansa felt sorry for her bastard brother Jon Snow. No one would volunteer for the watch, so her father gave Yoren his pick of the dungeons. Jane soon interrupts Sansa to suggest they go to the kitchen to get some lemon cakes, and Sansa agrees. The next morning, Sansa wakes to find Lord Beric depart with his men and thinks it is a song come to life. Afterward, the Tower of the Hand is so empty, Sansa is even happy to see Arya. Arya asks if the men have gone to hunt down Jaime Lannister, and Sansa explains that they have gone for Sir Gregor Clegane. Sansa then asks Septa Mordane whether they will put the Mountain's head on a spike over his own gate or bring it back to King's Landing. The Septa is horrified that Sansa would discuss such a thing over breakfast. Arya wonders why men were not sent after Jaime Lannister since he killed Jory Cassel and the others, or after the Hound for killing her friend Maeko. Sansa declares that it is not the same thing because Maeko attacked Joffrey. Arya erupts, shouting that Sansa is a liar. Sansa responds snobbishly that Arya can say whatever she wants, but she will still have to bow and call her Your Grace after she marries Joffrey. Arya throws an orange at Sansa, staining her beautiful ivory dress, and driving Sansa to declare that it should have been Arya they killed, not Lady. The Septa orders both of them to their rooms, where Sansa tears off her stained clothes and goes to sleep. Sansa is dreaming of Lady when Septa Mordane wakes her and brings her to her father. Once Arya is brought, Sansa immediately claims that Arya started the fight and ruined her dress. Eddard silences Sansa, and Arya takes the opportunity to apologize and ask for Sansa's forgiveness. Sansa is dumbfounded, but eventually asks about her dress. Arya offers to wash it, or failing that, to sew her a new one. Eddard interrupts to tell them that he did not call them to talk about dresses, but to inform them that he is sending them back to Winterfell. Both sisters exclaim their unhappiness, and Eddard laughs that they at least can agree upon something. Sansa insists that she has done nothing wrong and tells her father to send Arya away since she started it. Eddard explains that he is not sending them away as punishment, but to keep them safe. Sansa insists that she cannot go. She is to marry Prince Joffrey, whom she loves as much as Queen Daenerys loved Prince Aemon. She wants to be his queen and have his babies. Eddard assures Sansa that he will find her an appropriate match and that Joffrey is no Prince Aemon. Sansa insists that she wants Joffrey and that she will give him a son with beautiful golden hair who will be the greatest king there ever was, as brave as a wolf and as proud as a lion. Arya points out that Joffrey is not a lion but a stag like his father, and a craven and a liar besides. Sansa cries out, "He is not! He is not the least bit like that old drunken king." Eddard gets a strange look on his face before telling them that they will sail as soon as he can find a ship. He also warns them not to tell anybody. Septa Mordane returns to urge Sansa to stop crying, while Arya insists that a journey by ship will be an adventure and they will get to see everybody back at Winterfell again. Sansa remains furious and storms off to her bedchamber and bars the door. Grandmaster Pycelle tells Ned that the pain means that the bone is healing, but Ned only replies that he will be happy when his leg stops throbbing. Pycelle provides him with the milk of the poppy for the pain, but Ned says he sleeps too much already. Pycelle tells him sleep is good for healing. Pycelle informs Ned that Queen Cersei has received a letter from her father. Lord Tywin is angry about Ned sending men to bring Sir Gregor Clegane to justice. Ned replies that it does not bother him. Lord Beric Dondarrion rides under the king's banner, and if Lord Tywin attempts to interfere, he will have Robert to answer to, and the only thing Robert likes better than hunting is making war on defiant lords. Pycelle leaves, telling Ned that he will come again the next day. Ned knows Pycelle is Cersei's creature and doesn't care. He is not actually confident in Robert, but he does not want Cersei to know that. He calls for honeyed wine, which will not cloud his mind as badly as the milk of the poppy, because he needs to think. He thinks how sometimes a child's innocent eyes can see things that grown men are blind to, and how someday he will have to tell Sansa how she made it all come clear to him. Littlefinger pays a visit an hour after Pycelle leaves, bringing news that Varys has heard whispers that sellswords are flocking to Casterly Rock. Ned asks about Robert and is told that having found the White Hart dead, the king is now after a fierce boar. Most of the hunting party has returned, however, including Prince Joffrey and the Hound. Littlefinger states that he would have liked to have seen the Hound's reaction to learning that Beric Dondarrion is after the brother he hates. With that, Littlefinger leaves for a dinner, but not before noting the book of the lineages and histories of the great houses of the Seven Kingdoms and teasing, asking if it is a sleeping potion. Ned considers that, outside of his retainers, there is not a man in the city he trusts. Littlefinger leaving before the slaughter of his guard rankles him. Varys knows too much and does too little. Pycelle is Cersei's, and Sir Barristan is too old and rigid in his sense of duty. Arya and Sansa will sail in 3 days. Ned knows that honor will require him to go to Robert with all he knows when he returns. Last night he dreamed of when Lord Tywin had presented the bodies of Prince Rhaegar's children to Robert. Ned remembers that Robert could be merciful if a man were brave and honest. He had pardoned Sir Barristan, Varys, Pycelle, Balon Greyjoy, and Littlefinger, and let them keep their office for an offer of fealty. However, poison in the dark he will never forgive, and he will kill them all. Bran must have learned some part of the truth, otherwise they would not have tried to kill him. Ned decides that he must find a way to save the children. Ned calls in Fat Tom, now in command of his guardsmen, and asks to be taken to the Godswood. Ned also orders the guard doubled despite the shortage of manpower. Ned sends Tom to find Queen Cersei and give her a letter inviting her to join him. He sits in the Godswood. Ned feels the presence of his gods under the faceless heart tree, and his leg does not seem to hurt as much. When Cersei arrives at nightfall, Ned knows that she is proudly displaying the bruise Robert has given her. For the first time in a long time, Ned can see her beauty. When he declares that he knows the truth Jon Arryn died for, Cersei scoffs whether he has brought her here to pose riddles or to kidnap her. Ned replies that if she believed such things, she would not have come. He then asks about the bruise, and if Robert does such things often. She replies that it has never been on the face before, and that her brother would have killed Robert if he knew. When Ned suggests a correction of brother to lover, Cersei does not trouble to deny it. Cersei admits that she and Jaime have been lovers since they were children, and that when Jaime is in her she feels whole. When Ned asks about his son Bran, Cersei admits that she saw her and Jaime, offering her love for her own children as a reason for the attempted murder. Ned counters with the declaration that all 3 of Cersei's children are Jaime's. The last time a Baratheon had a child with a Lannister was 90 years before, when Tywin Lannister wedded Gwenn Baratheon. The single child was large and a lusty boy with a full head of black hair. 30 years before that, a Lannister had taken a Baratheon maid. All the children had black hair. According to the lineages and histories of the great houses of the Seven Kingdoms, the children of a Lannister and a Baratheon always had black hair. Ned asks Cersei how it is possible that she has never had a child by the king, and she admits that she almost did, but had the child aborted. Cersei goes on to claim that she cannot stand to even touch Robert now, and has not let him inside her for years. Instead, she pleasures the king in other ways when he leaves his whores long enough. Robert is always so drunk that he never remembers. When Ned asks about what made her hate Robert so much, Cersei reveals that on their wedding night, Robert called her Lyanna in the midst of their consummation. The story leads Ned to declare that he does not know which of them he pities more, but that he must still do his duty. Cersei makes a sexual advance on Ned while telling him that the realm needs a strong hand and that he will never regret being kind to her. Ned immediately rejects the advance by asking if she has made the same offer to Jon Arryn, and she slaps him. Offended by Ned's honorable persona, Cersei brings up Jon Snow and accuses Ned of many other possible debaucheries. Ned makes it clear that he intends to tell Robert everything when he returns and warns Cersei to leave King's Landing. He recommends that she take a ship to the Free Cities with all her immediate family, including her father, to escape Robert's wrath. Cersei stands and laughs and declares Ned a fool for not taking the throne himself 14 years before, when he forced Jaime to surrender the seat. Ned replies that he has made many more mistakes than Cersei can imagine, but that was not one of them. Cersei insists that it was, saying, "When you play the Game of Thrones, you win or you die. There is no middle ground." The stallion's heart is still raw and steaming when it is placed before Daenerys. As part of the ancient Dothraki motherhood ritual, she begins to eat the tough, stringy flesh. The Dothraki believe that the heart of a stallion will make her son strong and swift and fearless. If she chokes on the blood or retches, the omens are less favorable. The child could be weak, deformed, stillborn, or female. In preparation, Daenerys has eaten bowls of blood and dried horseflesh and fasted for a day and a half, yet her stomach roils and her jaw clenches. Khal Drogo stands over her as she eats, his face hard, but as she continues, Daenerys begins to see pride in his eyes. When she is done, Daenerys pronounces the words she has rehearsed to the Dosh Khaleen, the crones of Vaes Dothrak. Even the most powerful Khals bow to the wisdom and authority of these crones, each of whom is the Khaleesi of a dead Khal. The crones proclaim, "The prince is riding, a boy, a strong boy," and begin to chant. After the crowd finishes chanting, there is silence. Then one of the crones announces the greatness of the new prince and the stallion who mounts the world. Daenerys reveals the name of her son, Rhaego, in honor of her older brother. Khal Drogo leads her out of the pit with his blood riders behind, followed by the rest, down the God's Way. As they walk, Drogo asks about the name of their son, and Daenerys explains about her brother, a fierce warrior who died before she was born, the last of the dragons. Drogo declares that it is a good name. Eventually they arrive at the lake called the Womb of the World. Here Daenerys strips out of her soiled clothing and enters the lake. She cleanses her face and her body of the dried blood. When she emerges from the lake, Doria brings her a robe of sandskill, but Drogo waves her away. Daenerys can see his manhood through his trousers and helps him unlace, and 3 quick strokes he is done. They ride down the God's Way to Drogo's tent hall, where there is a great feast prepared for those too low of rank to attend the ceremony. As Dany rides up the aisle, the crowd hails the life within her. When she dismounts, Daenerys cannot find Viserys Targaryen. She sees Ser Jorah Mormont in a place of respect in the midst of the hierarchy and invites him to her own table. When Ser Jorah arrives, she asks about Viserys. He explains that her brother went to the market to find wine. Daenerys then questions why why he was allowed to go alone, since the usurper would pay well for his head. Ser Jorah assures her that Viserys should be safe, as nobody can carry a blade or shed a man's blood in Vaes Dothrak. Daenerys states that men still die. Some of the merchants have huge eunuchs to strangle thieves bloodlessly. Ser Jorah declares that her brother should be wise enough not to steal anything. The knight goes on to explain that her brother was going to steal her dragon eggs until he threatened to cut off Viserys' hand. Daenerys declares that she would have given Viserys an egg if he had asked. She does owe him for their survival, and he is all she has left of their family. Jorah tells her that she belongs to the Dothraki now. Daenerys asks Ser Jorah about the stallion who mounts the world. He explains that the stallion is the Khal of Khals, who is prophesied to unite the Dothraki into a single Khalasar and lead them to conquer the world. Doria interrupts Daenerys to point out her brother entering the hall in rags, drunk and carrying a sword. Angry mutterings rise all around her, and the music dies away. Daenerys has a sense of dread and asks Ser Jorah to stop him and bring him to her. Viserys starts screaming for Daenerys and reproaching the indignity of starting off the feast before his arrival. Ser Jorah is quickly by his side and tries to stop him, but Viserys jerks free. Then he moves to sit with Drogo and the other Khals. Drogo rises and declares through translation that Viserys' place is not on the high bench, but at the back where the lowest of the low sit shrouded in shadow, so that others do not have to look upon them. Viserys declares drunkenly that that is no place for a king, but Drogo emphasizes that that is his place, mocking him as the Sorefoot King and the Cart King. Viserys draws his blade, angering the Dothraki. Then he spots Daenerys and stalks over. She begs him to throw away the sword, but Viserys ignores her. Viserys demands his crown, or else he will take Daenerys back, but he will be happy to cut out her child and leave it for Drogo. To emphasize his point, Viserys presses his sword against her belly hard enough to prick her navel through her silks. Jiqui is sobbing in fear, stating that she dare not translate Viserys' words. If she does, she fears Khal Drogo will drag her behind his horse upon the Mother of Mountains. Daenerys agrees to translate instead. After hearing the translation, Drogo makes a statement in Dothraki and steps down from his high bench with his blood riders. Viserys asks and Daenerys translates, "You shall have a splendid golden crown that men shall tremble to behold." Viserys smiles and declares that it is all he ever wanted. His smile is what saddens Daenerys the most. Drogo orders his blood riders to seize the man who was her brother, breaking his arms and taking away his sword in the process. Drogo puts his belt of golden medallions into an emptied stew pot. Viserys finally realizes what is happening and begins to plead and struggle. Ser Jorah tells Daenerys to look away, but she refuses. When the gold is half melted, Drogo declares, "Crown for the Cart King," and upends the pot over Viserys' head. Soon it is over. Not a drop of blood is spilled. Daenerys thinks surprisingly calmly that Viserys was no dragon, because fire cannot kill a dragon. Well, that's it, everyone. Thank you so much for stopping by and watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, please leave them down in the comments below. I will be doing a Q&A at the end of the month for the entire book, so please leave your questions down below so that I can compile them if you want them answered. Again, thank you so much for stopping by. Please give it a thumbs up if you liked it, and please subscribe to come back for more. Thanks again. Bye.